everyone, and welcome to this amazing panel discussion on a fabulous topic, a very vast topic. Anything and everything, fintech has the solution. So before we start, I would like all of us to share a brief introduction about what we do with fintechs, what is our experience and exposure with fintechs. So to start with, I am CEO and co-founder of Lakshmi, which is a Anandrati-backed fintech, and we are creating India's first neobank for women. My exposure with fintechs is from my banking days, because since last 18 years, I've been working with the banks like HDFC, Kotak and Equitas. And I was also running the Fintech Accelerator program at Equitas, and I've also, in the neobanking space specifically, launched one of the fastest growing neobanks, which is NeoX, and of course, FreeOSave last year. So I would like the panelists to give a short self-introduction and their exposure to fintechs, and then we start with the topic.
Thanks, Jasmin. Hi, very good afternoon to each one of you. The fact that it required the MC to require all of you to announce that they need a clap of hands, it suggests that the post-afternoon or the post-lunch session is going to be a tough one, especially for the listeners. Speakers don't have a problem. We have to keep eyes and ears open. You have to keep not only eyes open, but also ears open. All right, so my name is Lakshmi Iyer. I work with Kotak Asset Management Company as the CIO for fixed income, and I also oversee the product profile on the business front. My connection with fintech now seems to be a buzzword, maybe in the last 5 years, 7 years. But my association with fintech started way back in 97, 98, when I joined this firm called Credence Analytics. Kotak is my second job. And when I joined Credence, it was a partnership firm. Now it's a private limited company. At that point in time, I was actively tracking the bond markets in India, where we used to sell research in floppy disks. And people used to pay for it. Okay, sounds very utopian and very dinosaurish right now, but yes, floppy disk and data being sold at that point in time. Now it's available on Twitter, Insta, LinkedIn, wherever you can think of. And then we started conceptualizing the thought of making, data marry technology. At that point in time, the software guys hardly knew about the markets, and market people like us hardly knew about technology. So I was the so-called lesser mortal chosen at that point in time to marry these two skills together. And I live in Mumbai, so I used to actually, I'm not a techie by background, I have an MBA by background, so I used to actually drive all the way to Fort in Mumbai and pick up these, those days it was in MS SQL, so SQL was a language used that day, again dinosaurish right now. So that was my stint, which started off, trying to extrapolate the logic of finance to our software guys and drill some coding sense to our sales guys through the marketing and the technology sense. So that's been my association. And of course, in Kotak, we have various solutions, both from a product side, both from an investment side, and the journey still continues. Of course, the nature and the texture of the journey has significantly improved. So yeah, that's my association with fintech over the last 2 decades.
Yeah, so good evening everybody. So my name is Ashish Agrawal. I am the director in Resurgent India Limited. So as a firm, we are basically not a fintech company, but we are into the financing or financing solutions, where we are helping fintechs. We are basically into debt syndication and the other stuff, valuations and all. But we thought to go to the fintech space some 4 or 5 years back. So we are finance people actually, and we have started a fintech company. So finance people started a tech company in the name of ScoreMe, which is into the underwriting solutions for the various NBFC banks and the fintech company. So where we are helping the organization in the digital lending, where many things are there which are needed, in terms of technology. So for underwriting, I think bank statement analysis and GST analysis. So these are the tools which are very, very important in now in the current scenario, because if you see digital lending is now in, I think every bank or every lending institution is now looking towards the digital lending. So we are helping, or we are providing the technology solution through our fintech company called ScoreMe. And I believe that I think in next 5 years, the digital lending will cross $1 trillion market size, which is very huge actually in comparison to the current the size of the overall lending in the Indian market actually. So I believe that fintech has very bright future. And if you see in the out of 100 unicorns in the overall Indian market, out of that 17 are the fintech companies only. So all the fintechs are having very bright future. And I believe in the various areas of BFSI, whether it's insurance or mutual fund or it's a banking, so all, I think all in all these areas, there is a need of the big number of fintechs, those can, I think, change the life of the people. And it is already happening, and I think it will happen also. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Since all the people over here enjoy numbers and fintech, I'll start with a simple thing. We are targeting a $1.3 trillion market in India. That's cross-border payments, which we are directly targeting with $300 billion market of small businesses by helping them in providing end-to-end compliances and taxation profile for them to be able to do their transactions very easily. We are a Y Combinator backed company, and my experience with fintech is with using fintechs. I have been a marketer for last 7 years of my life, and I have worked with over 35 companies around the globe. And the biggest problem for me has been receiving my money properly without losing a huge chunk of it, or being asked by my bank that you have to travel to your hometown, show us all the proof if you want to use your card properly. I have a history of 23 debit cards because that's the number of times they have frozen my account for doing international transactions. Fintech is improving, it's building new things every single day. We are on the bridge of building probably the coolest products which will be used around the globe. And probably the people who are sitting right next to me are going to be one of the people who will be building this history. Thank you so much for being here.
All other panelists, they have more experience in fintech that what I carry. So I have total 22 years plus of experience working in varied industries, starting from insurance to logistics and fintech. So in last stint, I was the director of business for AMETA region, which is Asia, Middle East, Turkey, and Africa. So now I handle the entire business unit for Zaggle in terms of all their product portfolios. Fintechs, yes, like some of the other panelists said, it's a very, very exciting space. It's a buzzword, and it has various extensions to it. I think we would like to cover that in detail during our discussion. Thank you.
When we talk about fintech, so actually, let's say I started with technology, then added finance to it, right? So I'm a technologist by training, you can say, education. I passed out of IIT Mumbai, Kanpur, and worked in technology area for a very long time in Motorola before I decided that I want to change my career. And in 2010, co-founded Mitras Financial, a wealth management firm. That's when I added finance to technology, and you can say fintech, and we started dabbling into finance plus technology, how to make it better. For the last 2 years, I've become part of Scripbox now, and we are the largest #1 digital wealth management platform, which addresses all mutual funds, stocks, insurance, fixed deposits, gold, etc., etc. So my association with fintech, like I said, has been for a very long time, with technology first and then finance. I remember the first time I really got exposed to a platform was way back in 1999, when the crash had not happened, the 2000 crash had not happened, and I invested in my first stock on E-Trade, right? So that's how I started getting involved or started using fintech, and slowly I became more interested in it, and that's how my journey with finance for my personal finance began. And then I kind of started the wealth management firm. So look forward to participating with the esteemed panel today.
Thanks, everyone. So as we all know, India is fast becoming the fintech hub of the world, and it's poised to become a $150 billion industry by 2025. I think there are a lot of factors that are contributing to this growth of fintech. Demographics, mobile penetration, also government support in terms of the GEM, Jan Dhan Aadhaar Mobile, even NPCI, the UPI. I think there are lots of factors contributing to the growth of fintech in the country. So my first question to the panelists is, what do you think are the kind of problem statements that fintechs can solve? And can you share one specific problem statement that you would like the fintechs to solve?
Thanks again, Jasmin. So, as I said, I belong to the investment fraternity where, in terms of our interaction, we have two sets of interaction. One is a B2B where we are interacting with the distribution or our channel partners, which are largely the banks, the private banks in India, the independent financial advisors, and of course, those which are not banks but have a pan-India presence in the form of national distribution. So there the connect is predominantly B2B. And there's another aspect of our business, which is a slightly smaller segment in terms of our total staff strength or employee strength, which caters to B2C, which is largely the institutional fraternity. Now, I would say probably if COVID wouldn't have happened, or maybe even just before that, things would have taken its own pace to develop. But I think courtesy, COVID acting as a strong catalyst, and even just before that, I think the end mile connect to the final customer, whether it's B2B or B2B2C or B2C, I think fintech has played a significant role. To give you a case in point, it's very cumbersome from a KYC standpoint, folio account opening, doing a transaction. There are 43 plus mutual funds in the country. There are 16 categories of debt mutual funds. There are equal amount of equity mutual funds. There are hybrid funds. There are ETFs. Now just imagine in this entire plethora, if you want to achieve financial inclusion, if you want to facilitate say even a 100 rupee SIP, which is systematic investment plan. Of course, we are catering to the affluent market. How do you really go ahead and do it? And I think that's where, to my mind, fintech plays a very, very critical role. So to our end, I think from our specific standpoint, we were, as a manufacturer in the investment sector, we were grappling with a couple of problems. One is, how do we have a network of our channel partners coming together and doing the same thing, which probably he or she would have done as an independent entry. Like Anup rightly alluded to the point that they are the largest digital advisors or distributors in India. But that's a very small segment of the country which is doing advisory or distribution in that manner. The bulk of them is still in the physical mode, let alone the digital mode. So I think that's a problem statement that we wanted to resolve for. And fortunately for us, today as we speak, as a firm at Kotak KMAMC, we have all the APIs in place. So if, for example, somebody wants to, it's starting off as a business and doesn't really have too much capital to, offer at that point in time, they can actually come to us, and that part of the solution is actually made available to our channel partners. So I think it started off with identifying a particular need, then going on to try to build a solution, and then of course building around that, to give comfort to the individual, there, that the customer is yours. We don't own your customer. The customer is entirely yours. Once that comfort is there, they just come to us, borrow the APIs, and then they go around creating their own ecosystem. And of course, we also have a B2B portal right now, which allows many of the existing established distributors to actually come on board and create their own branding, in some cases co-branding, but most of the cases their own branding. So I think that kind of problem identification, a need and a gap that needs, I think that's our small version of how fintech has really helped us.
So from our point of view, if you see, there are many banks in the country, many investors are there. We are into the financial advisory space, where it took a lot of time whenever any paper has to be sent to the any bank, any lender, or any investor. So if somebody can find out the solution, or something can be developed where it can be a smooth journey from the investor's point of view or from the lender's point of view, so all the information can be available at the one click, and the decision making can be done fast. Actually, if you see any investment in the any company in the form of private equity, venture capital, it took at least 3 to 6 months. The objective is that, or any borrowing also, if you are taking any loan for your organization, it also take around 2 to 3 months. So if something can be done where the all the things can be gathered at one place in the tech form, and the decision maker can get it, and the decision can be fast actually. So this will be, I think, a big solution for the financing industry, where the overall speed will increase, and the overall operating cost will also be reduced actually, because you see that lot of cost is involved in that process also. So it's, because you people are in the fintech business, if anybody can think of finding out the solution, it can be a great solution for this industry, for the banking industry, I'll say. Okay.
I think at this point, every single person in this room has one e-commerce or food delivery or the task list completing app. And one thing that I have realized is that we are moving toward a place where the 100 to 100 rupees off sounds great on our order every once in a while. But what we are looking for is vigilance. There is still a lot of financial vigilance among people, which is still not there yet. Be it understanding that how taking all the EMIs that you're getting is not right. It can actually mess up your credit card score. Or having the right solutions. I still feel that a lot of people, especially who are lower middle class or lower class, have a lot of inhibitions in going to a private bank or reaching out to them, that if they can avail some offer or not, or understanding how insurances, loans, taxation, other things work. I think one thing which we really need is vigilance, is the only thing that I'll point out. We don't have it yet, and it is not just supposed to be blog posts or newspaper articles online. It should be in us, especially the financial education. I wish someone can solve that the idea of debit, credit, or understanding how balance sheets work or personal finance work is not limited to people who are studying commerce or are CAs or people moving toward that sector, but it is a common sense which is available to all. And I hope somebody is solving it, be it government or private sectors, but we really need it.
Yeah, thank you. I would just like to bring everybody's attention on maybe a couple of points. One that I feel which is very, very important, while fintech solves a lot of different problems around, but one thing, you know, that's always in discussion is the data security. That's very, very important for everybody, whether we are somebody's a student or a businessman or a service class, whosoever that person is. A recent example, if I would like to connect with, you know, one of the recent notification or a mandate from RBI is tokenization, which is basically masking off your credit card numbers wherever you interact with. So fintech has done a great job in solving that problem. Think of a situation when we were using our own traditional financial institutions. You know, that wasn't possible, you know, and by the way, the fact says, even today, 45 to 50% of data breaches goes unnoticed. Nobody is even aware that our financial data, our financial health data, our financial scores have been stolen. So think from that perspective, you know, that is one major problem to have. Second thing that I talk about is, while we have seen, you know, the 2000 bust and the 2008-9 bust, right? It had a limited impact in India. Why? The impact was much bigger and larger when we talk about the US and the Europe. Why? Has anyone given a thought about it? You know, it is because the controls that our Reserve Bank, the central bank, exercise on our financial institutions. So any financial technology product, per se, a FinSec product, which deemed to be successful, need to be compliant with all the regulations set out by the government and by these regulatory agencies. At FinTech, we do it to a very, very great extent. Third, you know, like what Udita mentioned, you know, personalization of services. So if I am a user of a specific e-com tailor website, do I get offers which is personalized to me? We all get that. And that actually drives our, you know, our purchases. That's very, very important for us. So at FinTech, you know, like I said, I'm pretty new. I'm just like 7 years old in FinTech. But, you know, one thing I would like to share, you know, we all see there's a gap in the market, but it is the FinTech industry who has seen whether there's a market in the gap, as you know, is there a market in the gap or not? So that is I have on this point. Thank you.
Thank you. So to Udita's point, yes, we are already doing that education in personal finance. So that's very much happening, and I definitely agree with you that we need to do that, because what today happens in fintech, if you see, uh, you don't visit a bank anymore, right? So whenever you need money, anytime. And ATM, we have our own version of ATM, which is called as anytime money, right? So it's not automated teller machine, but it's more like anytime machine. And I don't think anybody remembers going to a bank, or we used to go to a bank. Of course, I used to go to a bank when I started my career. So we have, fintech has come a long way from being a transaction platform and doing things, to also some personalization that is happening in terms of your recommendations. I'll borrow an example from Netflix or Prime Video or some other kind of platforms, of even Zomatos and Swiggies, right? Where they will suggest what you should eat, what you should watch based on your previous usage. So data is being used creatively to kind of personalize your choices, give you options, but we need to do better than that, right? It's very transaction based still. Like Udita mentioned, is it right for me? Is it something I should do? Yes, but it'll sell. I can propose to you, or I can give it to you, but is it the right thing for me? Right? So from personal finance, which is my area of expertise, how do I make sure that what I'm doing, what products I'm buying, whether it's not because it makes me a lot of money, or it makes me give higher commission, but it's the right product for me. It's hyper personalization in some cases also, but increasing that awareness. And what Ekant mentioned about what we talked about, no, that security, the making sure that vigilance that Udita also mentioned about, compliance, right? In fact, I have to say this, right? In India, I think regulator has been very, very active and very vigilant that way. I don't know if some of you know that there was this investment advisory regulation that came in 2013. One of the most advanced kind of regulation in investments, right? Which even US didn't have it properly done. And they have like some 50, 60-year history of advisory market. So from that perspective, RBI, SEBI, MFI, they've been very, very vigilant, and they've been very active, to the point that sometimes we believe that they're too active towards investor protection. But actually rightly so, because they want to protect the investor. But investors also need to get educated. And we as fintech, what needs to provide is that awareness, and making sure that we are saying the right things. We are advising the right products which are personalized to your situation.
Thank you so much. And I think to add to that, I think when you spoke about the regulator, I think regulator is also trying to take a lot of steps to promote and fintech solutions. Like for example, recently we saw RBI Innovation Hub. It launched a Swanari tech sprint. Now, what was that? It was all about getting the best of the minds together, putting them in teams, giving them a sandbox to come, experiment, discuss, ideate, innovate, and figure out solutions that can actually solve financial inclusion problems for women. That was the whole objective of this Swanari FinTech, and I think it got excellent response from the FinTech industry. So I think the regulator is also doing its bit, and I think a lot of it is being done to promote fintechs. Having said that, I think fintechs have a very specific characteristic, and also the need of the hour is that we have very target segment specific and niche problem specific fintech solutions. So ecosystem based solutions is what we feel is the need of the hour, wherein we have solutions specific to say MSME sector, specific to women segment, specific to factory workers, blue collar workers. I think the financial needs of all of these segments are so diverse. And hence, there is a lot of scope for fintechs to innovate and come out with solutions that address to the specific needs of these segments. So my next question to the panelists is, what do you think are the key characteristics of the fintechs, and what challenges do you think fintechs face on their journey towards creating these solutions?
I could hear only the word challenge, honestly, Jasmin, because, I have been interacting with so many fintechs, as promoters, as potential investee companies. And I also happen to be on the advisory board of one such firm, which is trying to bring about financial inclusion, trying to do some edu-based funding, and, trying to tie in a whole host of these solution. So when I sit and brainstorm, and when they sit and brainstorm with me on a periodic basis, the one common underlying challenge, and I think the entire room would echo and resonate with this view, is talent hiring. I think that seems to be the bane at this point in time. So while we have a whole host of the joke that we were doing in one such discussions was that the candidate just wrote her exams and then we made her an offer, and lo and behold, she's part of our technology team. Now, God save that firm if they were to do something like that, because for me it's nothing short of a kindergarten student trying to write a PhD thesis. That's number one. Number two is that the aspirational value is shooting up way beyond one's expectations. So again, here I am, part of a cohort which tries to evaluate multiple such entities. That also includes fintechs. It's largely startups, including fintechs. And again, the discussion out there is everyone, he or she claims to have a moat. Claims, the word is claim, and that's again the biggest challenge. There is no acceptance of the fact that this is another fly-by-night opportunity and this doesn't really have any meat. In the name of innovation, there are too many things which are being peddled, which again poses its own challenge. And while I don't want to call out the day or the doomsday, but the point is, my worry is that this brings in its own self a series of challenges, which, if led to multiply, can probably one day go and explode. The only advantage here is that the base is much smaller compared to where we were as far when the dot-com bust happened in 2000. The second challenge is, of course, the opportunities for funding, and that's related because again, I was interacting with one such startup, very, very formidable. And to me, when I asked the promoters this question, what was your biggest challenge? And to them, and these are pretty seasoned financial market experts who've branched out to start off on their own, their biggest challenge was how difficult or nightmarish it was to raise the first $1 million. And I'm talking about the ones who are much smaller. Of course, for the established ones, this is not a challenge. But that brings a very big and relevant question, that how and when can the capital financing for these continue? So therefore, the ecosystem that is required, which is tied into your first question, is that of high-end transparency. Point number one. High degrees of integrity. I think integrity is the name of the game, because there will be many more, I call them CBM entities. CBM is Chor Bane More. Now, Chor Bane More is what happens is that when it's raining, all the peacocks are dancing. So then, if some of the non-peacocks also are in that crowd, you really can't make out. So I think we need to steer clear of not really fostering an ecosystem which can probably help the growth of these CBM kind of entities. And most importantly, the reach. So I think combined together, if we are able to foster this ecosystem, I think the challenges to a significant extent, I think, can be eliminated. It can't be completely eroded because ultimately niche is going to be niche. So I am a pet parent too. And sometimes I kept thinking, what if I start something around a pet? And the next thing I hear is there is not just 10 fingers in my hand, but if I count the entire family and extended family, there are some 40, 50 fingers on hand. That many kind of pet startups which are available. And then I realize, okay, I am a little bit dinosaur, so let me stay back. So I think that's going to be the ecosystem that we need to flourish, and tied into it, you can't erode those challenges, but I think significant amount of these challenges can be mitigated if there is a strong ecosystem?
So, as we are talking fintech, actually fintech is having very wide term. Actually, whenever we are talking, the fintech is payment, fintech is insurance, fintech is I think lending side also and investment also. So it's a very very wide term. If you see the challenges from all point of view, I think it will take too much time. But from the lending point of view, or the payment point of view, if you see the major challenge which I have seen while interacting with the organizations, they are not in a position to monetize their data actually. Therefore, yesterday I was talking to with one large payment fintech actually. They have 12 crore consumers or 12 crore database, but practically if you see they are not in a position to monetize that because they are still having huge losses. And so the solution is what they can think of the collaboration, because they have developed a good technology, they have the consumer, they have the database, how to monetize and how to be commercially viable actually. So collaboration, if you see the most of the payment fintechs are going for the lending business actually, because everybody is the consumer, everybody is the borrower now basically. So in the space where they are working, practically if they can do the collaboration with the different organization, banks, NBFCs and the organizations, they can monetize the data and the data which they have gathered by way of spending a lot of money. It can be help. It can help them in the becoming the economic viable actually. So there are many fintechs which I have seen. They are having a lot of data. If you talk, they will say that we have 1 crore of customer. Somebody will say 2 crore of customer. But when we see there, because I am the person from the financing background, so I always see from that point of view, what is the number you are making? What is your top line? What is your bottom line actually? Practically, if you see, the numbers are not exciting actually. So any fintech who is into the technology or they are providing some solution, they should see that how they can collaborate with the other companies or other organization where this data can be monetized and they can get the more business out of it actually. So that's the, I think, problem which can be solved with that, I think, collaboration.
I personally think that the biggest challenges that fintechs face is lack of, I'll say, collaboration opportunities, not just with, I'll say, banks or government, it's even with other startups. There is so much competition among people that we are forgetting the main goal of building a company. It is to bring innovation, it is to bring something, build something. I feel that is one of the biggest challenges, that we have to work too hard to make our company sound different than that of other company to get one single integration. Or convince others and sometimes even our own selves that we are not someone's competition, so that we can go ahead and reach out to their integration partners, talk to them. So the biggest challenge is, I'll personally say that we have to let the sense of competition go every once in a while. Exclusivity in contracts is a very different thing. I'm talking about competition, the toxic competition we have. We all are building toward a goal. It can be building a bank dedicated to women. It can be building a personal financial firm. It can be building anything, but every once in a while, especially the people who are on the provider end, they have to let everyone in with open arms, especially the new age startups who have to figure out warm connects, who have to figure out how to reach out, how to talk to them, how to make things work. I think as a fintech founder, that has been my biggest challenge. Being able to talk to people and not pitch that how I'm different from their company or their friend's company, and how I'm not trying to steal anyone's idea, rather I'm trying to make my own idea work. I also believe while the banks and a lot of institutions have their own innovation wings, but we need to have wings dedicated just for founders and or in upcoming founders, especially where they can do the A/B testing of their idea or get initial market validation, have early access to APIs or other integrations, or have experts available who are more than happy to talk and explain that these are the things you will be needing, these are the documents which don't make sense, this is how the KYC of your kind of customer has to be done. So the sense of being there for the ecosystem, because we all are building toward the one goal. It has already been mentioned that fintech is a huge sector. It has a spectrum of its own. So we have to build something together, and we have to look at even our competitors, our integration, everyone in the same way. And it will only happen when we realize we all are serving the same purpose, innovating the fintech.
So I believe there were two parts to this question, right? The first one was the characteristic of a successful fintech, and the second was one problem, okay, that fintech faces, right? So let me go take a dig at the first one. So I would like to mention, a few characteristics of a very, very successful fintech. With whatever limited experience I have, I launched fintech products in more than 5 countries outside India. And, now I am trying to do the same thing in India with my existing employer. I think the first important characteristic for any fintech is how can we faster the return on investments? That is what I think gentleman mentioned. So a company has a couple of million users data with them, okay, but they are not able to monetize it. So as fintech, we need to find innovative ways, okay, how can we do that quickly while fastering the whole cycle of return on investment? That's one. Second, on the hiring part, yes, it's a massive challenge. The market, especially the devs and the tech market, is very, very open. With very aggressive offers, counter offers, and then counter to counter offers. Okay, how can we strike a balance, okay, between our earnings and our cost? That's very, very important for any entrepreneur per se, or any person who's heading the business for that particular segment. That's number 2. Third, very critical is the speed of deployment. While we can do our own research, for a number of years, looking to build the most suitable product, the best product, but then we need also to consider, what is the need of the market? Can we go something like a minimum viable product to bring it faster to the market, and then maybe in a beta phase, and then maybe we can learn, improvise, take feedback, go back. So these are 3 very important characteristics. Few of the important pillars for any successful fintech, I feel product is one. They do a wireframing of the entire product portfolio, so that has to be very, very robust. Backed by a superior technology, which can actually help solve the root cause problem or address the root cause issue. Businesses there, business helps in bringing brand image to the market, right? And all this thing. And fourth is the market one, So if we just, wear a hat of a consumer at this point in time for a moment, okay? My personal experience says there are only 4 buying motives, okay, that drives our purchase. To start with is one, anything that helps us make money, we are tempted to buy that. Second, if there is any product which helps us save money, that's point number 2. Third, I take it as any product or any service that helps us save time. That's 3. And the fourth one, I think, is anything that helps us enhancing our image. So these are, I personally feel, these are 4 buying motive that drives any purchase. So that's the characteristic. One typical problem, while hiring, very rightly said, and the lack of collaboration. What I feel for a fintech specifically, we still miss that trust factor within the common public. This is what I feel, People still feel, if they go and do an FD with a bank, with a scheduled commercial bank, their money will be safe without reading the fine prints of the terms and condition. Okay. So I think as fintech, we need to always put customer experience in the forefront and then build products beside that, okay? We have to first solve the problem of lack of trust. In western part of the world, right, there are banks, the neo banks, the digital banks, which are far bigger than even the scheduled commercial bank of that particular country. So we are slowly and gradually going there. But yes, collaboration, absolutely, if fintech can collaborate with the traditional banks, because they have huge deposits, okay, so that money can be used in building better and superior products, which can solve the problem of an instant investment, okay? And then it can also help the bank, rephrase their entire image and bring more efficiency to it. So that is my take on this question. Thank you.
So I could hear me speaking when Ekant was talking about trust and fixed deposits and things like that. So yes, one of the problems that in fintech, and I'll talk more from the investments point of view, trust is an important factor. Today, what we have done best is more in terms of the transactions, but fintech as it applies to investments, how do I build that trust? How do I make sure that I take care of emotions? So he talked about why do people buy things? Is it enhancing my image, right? So that's one of the factors that Ekant talked about. In investments also similar thing happens. It's not only about the utilitarian value of the investment, that what it makes me, but it's also about how it makes me feel, how it makes me look in front of investment. Crypto is a good example. So I'm just bringing crypto in over here because it's not necessarily because of the merits of the investments, more about whether you're a new age investor, whether it kind of, no, there's an emotional attachment to it. So from investments point of view, besides what the challenges any organization faces, in specifically technology, there's a really kind of competition for talent. So hiring is a challenge, of course. But I also think that there's a training. So why it's a challenge is because we still have that shortage of the skill set that we are looking at in fintech, right? So, we are kind of this, it becomes like a musical chair because you're targeting the same kind of people. So how do we build that capability, the training, and making sure that the skilled workforce is there? That is something that fintechs have to address. And of course, like in any organizations, startups, how do you get funding? How do you make it profitable? And the product market fit is something which is important. What specifically fintech solves is the consumer experience, right? So it's also important that how do you test that consumer experience becomes important. Now in investments, the next level of challenge would be, how do I build something about that takes care of my emotions, right? How do I build something in fintech which also gives me advisory capability? And besides, there's a lot of data available, right? So while data has been the boon of fintech, but data has also become the bane of the fintech. So you'll see all these ads, everybody targeting, right? There are some 20, 30, people doing the same thing, right? Because everybody's trying to take the same data and trying to kind of target to sell you something and to get your attention, right? And attention spans have really, really shortened today. How many times you kind of, besides WhatsApp, right? I don't think anybody would look at any app for more than a few minutes, right? So how do you use data? How do you make it more personalized, the data for my particular case? And making sure you use data creatively and not kind of just bombard the users with that. So those are some of the challenges for fintechs.
Thank you so much. And thanks everyone. I think these were some amazing insights. While I have a few more questions, I think we don't have time. And hence, we will disconnect and look forward to connecting with all of you offline. Thank you so much, all the panelists. I think we had a great discussion and a nice conversation. Thank you everyone for patient listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.